So this servant is a bit of a weird one because I think they've aged a bit better than other units from around when she actually released, but it's kind of strange to me that they have not tossed a buff her way because she could also really use it. I mean, it's in the same way, and don't take this out of context by the way, but it's in the same way that I think Kama Assassin is a very well aging servant, but you definitely could toss a buff her way. Like, you know, you could definitely do that if you wanted her to be a little bit better. This is like that, but probably more important. Specifically on the damage side of things, I really like using Saber Fran. She brings out the Yu-Gi-Oh player in me because everything has a cost associated with each of the skills, and each of the individual skills are very powerful, so it feels like you're making these trades and these exchanges, and realistically most of them are not a super big deal, but the payoff really isn't fully there, and I'll kind of show what I mean in the background gameplay of this video, and we'll talk about it as we go through this. Now, obviously you can mitigate that if you want to go for higher NP copies, but with how limited this servant is, and the fact that she's on rate up with Nemo right now, I mean, take it from me myself, I tried to go ahead and get myself a singular copy of this servant and only really walked away with an extra copy of Nemo. I mean, hey, one multi to try to go ahead and get yourself the 4-star and you bag NP2 Nemo. I mean, even though I don't know if I'm ever going to use this guy, I count that as a W. I think technically, I don't really know if that's burning my luck for other games, but hey, it's still a W in my book. But suffice to say, even though 4-stars are a lot easier to acquire technically on paper than the 5-star, you know, that are going on rate up as well, that's not how it always breaks down. So I would highly advise not going on this banner unless you absolutely love Frankenstein Saber. You know, you just think she's absolutely adorable and you gotta protect this servant. This video is for those people because we're gonna be breaking her down in today's video on whether or not she's worth summoning for, and realistically what you need to know about the servant before you do summon for them, or if you already have them, how they're gonna break down and play. So with that said, before we begin, if you find these videos to be informative, your boy is trying to do double FGO uploads now because, hey, if Lasango's gonna have it be dry as the Sahara Desert, I gotta try to put something out there to keep people interested, you know, try to hold people's interest and whatnot. And so if you like being informed or entertained, make sure you drop a like on the video and maybe even subscribe to the channel, as I will be doing these videos. I'm trying to do them twice a day. I'm even thinking about bringing stuff like Low Star Legends and the FGO hotfixes back as well on set days, like maybe Low Star Legends are Fridays, and then maybe like Mondays we do hotfixes, something along those lines. So I'm wheeling out the content, right? If you're looking for content, I'm selling, technically, but it's free. But you know what I'm trying to say. So with all that being said, without further ado, let's just start diving into her kit, starting off with her hits. And here's the weird thing. You look at her hits, and she's one of those servants that you think her effects, or like her NP gain, would be more broken than they actually are, because 0.70% NP gain on a 4-hit arts card and 3-hit quick cards is not bad. And I will say her refund on that arts card and on the quick card with her first skill up can be pretty nice, but it's not like this 0 to 100 all the time that you're expecting. Now this could also be because I was using her with a caster Scotty and a ruler Scotty instead of double ruler Scotty because I had to bring a friend Frankenstein Saber, but still that's a loss of only 15% quick to still get about a 50% return on, say, a crit quick card, right? Which is not bad. I mean, the 50% is still really good, but when we have other servants that specialize in refunding, like a Reshkagal on her arts card or a Masashi with her double hits, you'd think it'd be a little bit stronger. Again, not a rag on her, it's just trying to prepare people that are going to go into this expecting to be refunding just like 200% NP all the time because of how insane her first skill looks. I'm trying to bring her expectations down. She's good, the refund is still there, it's just not as cracked as you think it's going to be, but they did make her a little cracked with that extra attack. Here at ZTL Industries, we like to see a 5-hit extra attack at bare minimum, especially with the advent of a pen skills. If you don't know, maybe you're new, maybe you're living under a rock, but the extra attack is the strongest card in the game. It drops stars, gains NP, and does big boy damage. How can you argue with that? But as insane as it may be, you can't win the battle off the broken extra attack alone. I mean, they only give you the one and they lock it behind other cards. So we're going to need our skills to get through some of these battles. And like I always say, the skills are what pay the bills, and let's start looking at them because she has some very powerful skills for her time. I think when she dropped, these skills were made pretty well because they have demerits attached to them that they do still translate to being fairly decent even to this day. Starting off the first skill, this is the one that I do think a lot of people are going to look look at it and think she's going to be way more broken than she actually is, because at the cost of 10% NP, and you're only able to use this when you have at least 10% NP, you cash that in and you get 80% NP gain for 3 turns on a 5-turn cooldown, meaning the downtime on this is only 2 turns. So functionally throughout a battle, more times than not, this is going to be up. And when this is up, you really do notice a stark increase in how much she's able to refund, which, you know, no duh, it's 80% NP buff. But again, sometimes you'll have really good rotations where you can do like refunding like 200% of your NP. You can have these like really crazy turns where you like a quick arts, quick chain, or something along those lines, and you can just really just start fiending into refunding your NP. And then other times you're going to be a little bit let down because you're only going to refund, you know, 50%, as you'll see during one of the turns on one of the quick crits. And I was like, I was kind of expecting a little bit more. You know, we've got the double Scotty action going on. We have the galvanism up. And it just wasn't as much as I thought it was going to be. And so I think as long as you keep your expectations tempered on this skill, you'll never be disappointed, because it's still gonna set you up for a follow-up NP. If you fire the NP and you have a couple of quick cards, or you have the arts card especially lined up ready to go, it sets you up for a follow-up NP, which is always going to be good. Just don't be expecting it to get you to like 200-300% of your NP, which I guess thankfully her overcharge effects aren't like the craziest things in the world. I mean, they're decent, but it's not like if you're not overcharging NP, you're, you know, not able to use the servant. But I just want to keep some people's expectations tempered on this one. It's a very, very strong skill, but just keep them tempered. Don't be going in there thinking you're going to be refunding 200% NP every single turn. Moving over to her second skill, this one is one of the ones that I do think aged particularly well, because sure, at the cost of 500 HP, you're able to reduce one enemy's attack by 20% for 3 turns, but more importantly, you remove all of their buffs. And being able to buff removal just flat out, no cost at all whatsoever, just yoink all of your enemies' buffs, that is incredibly powerful, especially with how some bosses really love to stack things like attack, crit damage, defense, damage cut. They do have unremovable things. You know, they have stuff like dodge, and you know, you'll have like invul, or they'll give themselves a special damage resistance for a set amount of turns. Yes, some bosses will have those things, and unfortunately, that's just kind of a product of the time. But technically, if you're fighting, say, someone like a coup unit, right, who will slap on their dodge skill or their guts, or maybe even both, you can yoink all of those off, and that is still really good. I mean, consider how good somebody like Summer Ibuki or Kiara is when that's kind of their main thing. I mean, sure, having that innate built-in pierce invincibility like, say, Summer Masashi has might technically be better, but it's still not bad to be able to yeet all of your opponent's buffs off, because again, that also technically contributes to the survivability of your party, because you're removing offensive buffs off of the enemy as well, which means less damage done to you, which is particularly good in quick setups, because Scotty's not exactly the best at keeping people around. But again, you can see where we're going with this. First skill, very strong NP gain buff. Second skill, lower the enemy's attack to kind of give you some survivability, but more importantly, you can steal all of their buffs. That's insanely strong. And then the third skill is also built particularly well. She gives herself a burn that does 200 damage to herself for 5 turns. So over the course of those 5 turns, you will take 1000 damage. You can always give her command codes to kind of like, you know, maybe help offset the damage she's taking for something like this. Or, you know, you can always just bring, I don't know, like a Merlin. Sure, he's not going to give her any quick buffs or anything, but if you're really that concerned about 200 damage, then go ahead, bring somebody to heal her. Asclepius could also work. But realistically, you don't need to do this. You're probably going to turn the enemy into paste before this has any real time to do any damage to you and make any meaningful difference, especially because you're giving yourself a 20% attack and 20% NP damage buff, which is diversifying your buffs. The reason this is really strong is that FGO pretty much calculates their damage by multiplying the different stats into each other. So taking different damage types, and instead of adding them, they multiply. So when you can diversify your set of buffs, it's really, really strong on some of these servants. It's why someone like, say, Karna might hit really, really hard, despite really not having that many buffs. And it's also particularly strong because it's one of the things that Scotty and Ruler Scotty don't offer is NP damage. I mean, Ruler Scotty offers you the attack, Caster Scotty can do defense down, and they can give you the card type buffs, but they can't give you NP damage unless you're somehow getting Oberon into your team comp with, I guess I say somehow, but, you know, you pulled Oberon, which, given the amount of comments I've seen over, you know, the past year since he's released, not everybody has pulled Oberon. So it's nice that you're able to at least give that to yourself, to give yourself a decent chunk of damage. And I guess we'll just go ahead and lean into the NP over here. I don't think it's the craziest thing ever. It's basically hitting the enemy with like the fear terror status where maybe you're going to be stunning all of the enemies. It's kind of nicer because instead of it being like a 60% chance to stun one enemy, it's a 20% chance to stun all of the enemies, but it doesn't last for the 3 turns, which is a little bit annoying, but that's also why she has a 60 to 100% stun chance on her overcharge effect, which is why I was saying earlier that it's not like the craziest thing. I mean, sure, it might help guarantee that you lock down an enemy for a turn, but it's not like you're getting extra damage or bombing like 10 stars versus 30 stars on the overcharge over here. And really, all in all, for a servant that came out for Summer 2, she's not all that bad. You can get some decent mileage out of her, but here's the problem. It's not that, you might be underwhelmed with the first skill, because realistically, you're still going to get really good NP mileage out of her. It's just, if your expectations are on the moon, you might want to bring them to the stratosphere, bring it down just a little bit. The issue is her damage, right? If you look at her damage, she is being out-damaged by an NP1 Caesar. That is a 3-star free-to-play servant that you can easily get to NP5, where he is far and away out-damaging her. Bedivere, someone that you get for free for doing Camelot, out-damages her at NP1, the free one you get, so you don't even need to invest in higher copies. We're going to be getting Iori in about a year and a half-ish, whenever we get the Samurai Remnant collaboration. That guy far and away out-damages her as a free NP5 servant that you only need to do Fuyuki for. And then you also have Satanta that's coming out next year, who was another free-to-play NP5 servant who is also quick to kind of put the final nail in the coffin for her, that also at least has some type of gimmick against Wild Beast enemies, and it can also pierce defense for those weird corner cases where the bosses can't have their buffs removed. I mean, you also have people like Karna Santa, who's a free-to-play NP5 Saber that's also quick. You have somebody like Saber Hokusai, who doesn't have the most complicated kit, but at the very least, she's going to be out-damaging your Frankenstein Saber. It really is one of those servants that you have to go for if you really, really like the character, because I think their kit is alright, but have noticed that her damage, yeah, even the NP4 one that they give you for the story that I was using in the background and was buffing with appropriate supports, was not really hitting those super insane damage numbers. I mean, some of the better numbers she got are when we used, the Lambda support, which, go figure, you get big NP damage buff, you're going to be doing a lot more damage, but it's got to be one of those servants that you really enjoy using, because you have very solid free-to-play options. It's not like Iori and Satanta are bad servants. It's like, no, they're very, very good. And if you just need somebody to dome somebody, then you got Caesar for that. Caesar just does really good damage and has the added bonus of being able to like stack even more attack on his NP and can do really good crits, which again is something that Frankenstein Saber is lacking a little bit. I think if they wanted to help her out a bit, they could just toss her some extra bonus damage by either buffing her NP or slapping it on, like, say, the 3rd skill or something along those lines. Maybe even giving her some type of ramping damage, some way to increase her crit damage, stuff along those lines, I think would be very, very solid for her moving forward, because she's kind of already got this playstyle where you want to be doing crits with her first skill so you can really maximize how much NP gain you're getting. So why not also toss her a way to increase those crits that she's already going to be doing? Just some food for thought. Maybe you'll see her on a FGO hotfix sometime in the near future. But with all that being said, let me know if you are going to be pulling for Frankenstein Saber. Again, I myself did one multi for her because I'm like, all right, she's pretty adorable. Let me at least try to get her. And I like her playstyle. And I, at the very least, have all the supports. And I have the Maxima Broken level 100 Black Grail. So I can kind of brute force her into doing damage. But the cards just didn't work out that way. But let me know if they work out for you in the comment section down below. And again, if you enjoyed the video or you just like watching some FGO content, I upload these videos at least daily and sometimes twice daily, as we're making an attempt right now to try to do for the month of October to see how well that goes. If you want to go that extra mile in supporting the channel, I have a Patreon link down in the description down below where I'm trying to work with you guys on getting you guys some exclusive Patreon content over there, but it might end up being a lot of those lore videos about like the current stuff that's going on JP, because since we can't really talk about that on YouTube anymore, might just make that the Patreon exclusive content. But you also get access to stuff like movie nights and game nights, stuff along those lines. So if that interests you, that is down in the description down below. But again, even just liking, subscribing, and watching the video is more than enough. It's just for those people that want to go that little bit of an extra mile. But with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace, late guys.